The morning doctor Leila Sharif opened the door to her new dental clinic. She told herself she was nervous about the sterilizer calibration. That was easier than admitting. She was nervous about everything else. The clinic was hers, finally, completely, undeniably hers. 4 years of associateship under Dr. Rampart's cold fluorescent tyranny, 2 years of saving. 6 months of renovation arguments with a contractor who thought sage green and army green were the same color. And now here it was. Sharif family dentistry, even though there was no family involved. Just Leila, 34 years old, brown-eyed, perpetually running 5 minutes late despite leaving early. Standing in her own reception area at 7 in the morning with a coffee that had already gone cold. The walls were the right shade of sage green dot. She had won that battle. At least, her first assistant, a man named Darius who had followed her from Dr. Rampart's practice out of loyalty and a genuine hatred of Rampart's parking situation, was setting up the instrument trays in Operatory 1. She could hear him humming something vaguely operatic. Darius was 47, recently divorced, and had strong opinions about flossing picks versus traditional floss that he was not shy about sharing with patients. Her second operatory was still empty. The dental assistant she'd hired for that room, the one who would work alongside her most closely, manage her schedule, assist her chairside, was starting today. Her name was Maya Okonkwo. Leila knew this from the resume, from the phone interview, from the reference calls. She knew Maya was 28, that she had 5 years of experience, that her previous employer Dr. Nguyen had said with what sounded like genuine sorrow, "I only lost her because we didn't have the hours she needed." She knew Maya had a certification in dental radiology and had taken a continuing education course in pediatric patient management that Leila herself had been meaning to take. For 2 years, she did not know. Could not have known from any of this what it would feel like when Maya Okonkwo walked through the door at 7:50-3. Leila was reviewing a patient chart at the front desk when she heard the door chime. She looked up. Maya was tall, nearly as tall as the door frame seemed to require her to duck slightly, though that was probably Leila's imagination. She wore dark scrubs, the kind with the small logo of the supply company embroidered on the chest, and her looks were pulled back in a way that was professional and somehow also completely effortless. She carried a canvas tote over one shoulder and a travel mug in her hand, and she was looking around the reception area with an expression of open, genuine appreciation. "Oh," Maya said, to no one in particular. "The color in here is really good." Leila put down the chart. "Sage green. I fought for it." Maya looked at her and smiled. And Leila felt something shift, not dramatically. Not the way it happened in movies with a swelling score, but quietly, like a room's temperature changing by 2 degrees. Enough to notice. Not enough to explain. "Dr. Sharif?" Maya said. "Leila, please." She came around the desk and extended her hand. "You must be Maya." "I am." Maya's handshake was firm, warm, brief. "It's a beautiful space. I looked at the photos online, but they don't do it justice." "The photographer couldn't capture the sterilizer," Leila said. "It's very photogenic in person." Maya laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that made you want to say another funny thing just to hear it again. Leila gave her the tour. Operatory 1, where Darius greeted Maya with the enthusiasm of someone who had been alone with a humming problem for an hour. The sterilization room, the small staff kitchen with its deliberately optimistic fruit bowl. The storage room that was still half filled with boxes Leila hadn't gotten into. Operatory 2, Maya's domain, which still smelled faintly of the new upholstery on the dental chair. "What do you think?" Leila asked, standing in the doorway while Maya ran a hand along the counter, checking the organization of the instrument drawers with the practiced eye of someone who had worked in enough operatories to know immediately what she'd need to adjust. "I think I can work here," Maya said. She looked up, and there was something warm in her eyes that was more than professional satisfaction. "I think we're going to do good work here." Leila noticed that word the way you notice a small stone in your shoe, not painful. Just present. The first day passed the way first days do, in a blur of minor crises and small victories. A patient who had filled out the wrong insurance form. An instrument tray that Darius had assembled with an inexplicable substitution that he defended at length. The sterilizer, which did not misbehave, as if it knew better, and Maya, who moved through all of it with a calm efficiency that Leila found herself watching from across the room with something she chose to label as professional admiration. By 5 o'clock. When the last patient had gone and Darius had left with a cheerful wave and a reminder that he had a pottery class on Tuesdays, Leila and Maya were alone in the clinic running the end-of-day checks. "You did well today," Leila said, in the sterilization room where Maya was running the autoclave cycle. "I know first days are chaotic." "I've had worse first days," Maya said. She was leaning against the counter with her arms crossed, watching the machine the way you watch something you trust but haven't fully tested yet. "My actual worst first day involved a water line that came disconnected mid-procedure. Patient was fine. I was not fine. That's a nightmare." "The dentist I was working with screamed," Maya said, and something in the way she said it made clear this was not a fond memory. "Not at me, just into the air." Which was somehow worse. "I can promise you," Leila said, "that whatever happens in this clinic, I will not scream into the air." "That's honestly a high bar and I appreciate you setting it." Leila laughed. It came out easier than she expected. They finished the closing checks in a companionable quiet that felt, for a first day, remarkably like the quiet of people who had been working together for much longer. At the door, coats on, keys in hand, Maya paused. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said. And the sincerity in it was so uncomplicated and direct that Leila felt slightly disarmed. "Thank you for taking it," Leila said. Maya smiled that smile again. 2-degree shift and walked to her car. Leila stood in the doorway for a moment longer than necessary. She told herself she was checking that the parking lot lights were working. 6 weeks in, Leila understood the shape of her days. Morning, coffee, chart review. The small ritual of setting up operatory 2 while Maya was still arriving. Though Maya arrived earlier and earlier until Leila started arriving earlier too. And neither of them acknowledged this directly. There was always coffee waiting when Leila got there now. Maya had learned, without being told, that Leila took it with 1 sugar and a specific amount of oat milk that was more than a splash and less than a pour. Work, the steady rhythm of patience. The call and response of dentist and assistant that, when it worked well, was almost like a language spoken between 2 people who had learned it together. Leila discovered that Maya anticipated her needs so precisely it became almost disorienting. The instrument offered before she reached for it. The suction repositioned before she asked. The way Maya would catch her eye across the patient and convey, with a single slight expression, "This one is anxious. We should slow down, or this one is fine, you can push through." Leila had worked with Darius for 4 years. She loved Darius. She did not have this with Darius. With Darius, she sometimes felt like she was conducting a one-woman show while he performed a different one in the same room. It worked. Patients liked him. She liked him. But there was no particular frequency they shared. With Maya, it was different. She noticed the difference in the small things first. The way Maya arranged the instrument trays not by the official protocol, but by the sequence Leila actually used. Which was different, which Leila had never told anyone about, but which Maya had simply observed and accommodated. The way Maya knew which patients needed the blanket from the cabinet and which patients needed the window shade adjusted, and how she managed both of these things without creating the impression she was managing anything at all. She noticed the difference in the larger things more. Slowly. There was the afternoon. Week 4, when a 7-year-old patient screamed for 20 minutes before they even started. And Leila emerged from the operatory feeling hollowed out by the noise and the careful performance of cheerfulness she'd had to sustain. And Maya, who had stepped out first to retrieve something from the supply room, simply handed her a glass of cold water without saying anything, not making a thing of it. Just knowing there was the morning Maya came in looking tired in a way that was clearly not physical exhaustion, but something heavier, and Leila had asked carefully, "Are you okay?" And Maya had said, "I will be," with a directness that trusted Leila with the honesty of no, not right now, without asking Leila to carry it. And Leila had nodded and said, "Let me know if you need anything," and meant it. And that had been enough. There was the afternoon they had a cancellation and found themselves with 45 minutes and no patients. And they ended up sitting in the staff kitchen talking about everything and nothing. About the neighborhoods where they'd grown up, Leila in Columbus, Maya in Atlanta, about the strange specific grief of finishing a long book, about whether the fruit bowl was a functional feature or a psychological prop. And when the next patient arrived, Leila realized she had been talking with Maya for 45 minutes and it had felt like 10. She kept carefully, not thinking about what this meant. It was Darius who noticed first. Because Darius noticed everything and had no particular filter. "You two have a thing," he said to Leila on a Wednesday afternoon in week 8. With the casualness of someone commenting on the weather, Leila was reviewing charts. She did not look up. "I don't know what you mean." "A rapport thing." He waved his hand. "A frequency. You finish each other's clinical sentences. That's called good chairside communication." "Darius, I've been your chairside assistant for 4 years." A pause. "We have good communication too," Leila said. "Dr. Sharif," Darius said with great affection. "I once handed you a scaler when you needed a curette and you made a face like I'd handed you a live fish. That was one time. It's happened 6 times. I've been counting." He picked up a chart. "I'm not saying anything, I'm just observing. Maya's good for you. Good for the practice." He paused. "Good for the practice," he repeated with slightly different emphasis. And went back to his work. Leila kept her eyes on her screen. "Good for the practice." She thought, yes, that was it exactly. What Leila did not allow herself to think about during these weeks was a particular fact about herself, that she had spent a significant portion of her 20s understanding, and a smaller but still substantial portion of her early 30s quietly not acting on. The fact was this: she was gay. Had known it clearly since 22. Had had 2 serious relationships with women in her mid-20s before dental school had consumed everything. Had navigated the coming out conversation with her parents. Her mother had cried. Her father had made tea. Both of them had come around eventually and thoroughly. Had arrived in her 30s as a woman who was openly, simply undramatically gay and who also currently had a practice to run and no time for complications. She thought about this one evening in week 9, sitting in her car in the parking lot after a particularly long day, because she had stopped pretending she wasn't thinking about Maya and had decided to think about it clearly, like a problem you sit down with rather than one that sits down with you. Maya made her feel things. That was real, what Maya felt, whether Maya felt anything, whether Maya was even interested in women. Whether any of this existed anywhere outside Leila's own perception was entirely unknown, and she was Maya's employer. Leila sat in her car for a long time. Then she drove home, made dinner, and decided that the professional thing, the ethical thing, the correct and responsible thing, was to be exactly what she was: a good employer, a good dentist, a good colleague. And to let that be enough. She was very good at deciding things. She was less good at the carrying out. The thing that changed first was small. It was a Tuesday in month 3. In October, when the leaves had gone gold on the street outside the clinic windows and the last patient of the day had gone, and Darius was at his pottery class and Leila was running late on a lab case she needed to finish documenting. She was sitting at her desk and she could hear Maya in the next room doing something administrative on the computer. And the clinic was very quiet, and it was getting dark earlier now, and the lamps in the hallway made a warm amber light, and everything felt, for a moment, like the inside of something safe. Maya appeared in the doorway. She'd changed out of her scrubs into her street clothes, jeans, a dark green sweater, because she'd had an errand to run at lunch. She was holding her tote bag on one shoulder, ready to leave, and she stopped when she saw Leila still at the desk. "You're still here," she said. "Lab case documentation. 40 more minutes, probably." Maya hesitated in the doorway. Then she put her tote bag down and said, "I can wait and walk you out." Leila looked up. "You don't have to do that. I know." A small pause. "I don't mind." And because Leila had been doing so well for 3 months at drawing clean professional lines, she said okay when she should have said, "Please go home." "I'm fine." Maya settled at the small table in the corner of the office with a book. She had a book in her tote bag. Of course she did, and Leila went back to her documentation. There was the sound of pages turning occasionally, the faint street sounds outside, the amber lamplight. At one point, Leila looked up to stretch her neck and found Maya watching her with an expression she couldn't fully parse. Something thoughtful and careful. something that got quickly rearranged into a neutral smile when Maya noticed she'd been seen. Almost done? Maya asked. Almost, Leila said. She finished. They walked out together into the October night, and the air was cold and clear and smelled like fallen leaves. And they stood in the parking lot for a moment before going to their separate cars. Good night, Maya said. Good night. Leila said she sat in her car for 3 minutes before she felt capable of driving. The thing that changed second was less small. It happened at the end of month 4. In November, at the clinic's small staff Thanksgiving gathering, just the 3 of them, Leila and Darius and Maya, because Leila had wanted to mark the 4-month milestone of the practice, and Darius had suggested with great enthusiasm that this required food. And so Leila had ordered an entirely unnecessary amount of food from a nearby restaurant and may had spread it out in the staff kitchen and eaten it standing around the counter because the kitchen didn't have enough chairs. Darius, who had never met a silence he could tolerate, had spent most of the meal telling a story about his pottery class that involved a structural failure of a bowl and a classmate named Gerald, who apparently took ceramics extremely seriously and had opinions about Darius's glazing choices. It was a very long story and required several tangents. Leila ate her food and laughed at the appropriate moments and was aware, with a low-level constancy, that she'd stopped trying to turn off of Maya beside her, the warmth of her in the small kitchen. The way she laughed with her whole face. At some point, Darius's story required him to demonstrate a hand position, and he knocked his paper plate off the counter. And in the scramble to catch it, Leila and Maya both reached for the same thing, not the plate, but the container of cranberry sauce that was about to follow it, and their hands collided over the container and stayed there for a moment, both of them holding it, neither of them quite letting go. It was a second, maybe 2. Leila looked up and found Maya already looking at her. And what she found in Maya's eyes was something she hadn't let herself look for. She let go of the cranberry sauce. Maya set it safely back on the counter. Darius had retrieved his plate and was continuing the story. He had not noticed anything. He had wonderful focus when it came to Gerald from pottery. Leila ate the rest of her food and spoke normally and laughed in all the right places and felt, for the rest of the evening, that the kitchen was slightly smaller than it had been before. That night she called her friend Priya, who lived in Chicago and was a periodontist and was therefore one of the few people in Leila's life who could be told about dental clinic dynamics at 10 p.m. without losing patience. I have a situation, Leila said. Is it the sterilizer? It's not the sterilizer, is it, Darius? It's Maya. A pause on Priya's end that carried a specific kind of weight. Tell me, Leila told her. Not everything, not the cranberry sauce moment, which felt too small to explain and too large to minimize, but the shape of it. The frequency. The cold coffee that had become coffee with 1 sugar and the right amount of oat milk. The 45 minutes in the kitchen that felt like 10. The October evening with the amber lamps and the book. Priya listened all the way through, which was one of her best qualities. Leila, Priya said, when she was done, I know. She works for you. I know. You need to be careful. I know. I am being careful. I have been being careful. Being careful, Priya said carefully, is different from doing nothing indefinitely. A silence. Do you think she feels it too? Priya asked. Leila thought about Maya's eyes in the staff kitchen, over the cranberry sauce in the amber lamplight of a Tuesday evening in October. I don't know, she said. I think maybe. I don't know. You need to know, Priya said. One way or the other. Because right now you're in a middle place and middle places have a cost. I know, Leila said. For the 4th time, she went to sleep late and dreamed about nothing useful. December arrived with a specific busyness that dental practices get in December, the year end. Rush of patients wanting to use remaining insurance benefits, the compressed schedule. The patients who were also busy and stressed and took this out on the wait times. Leila worked long days and came home tired and didn't have time or energy to think about the situation, which was both a relief and a frustration. Maya worked alongside her through all of it with the same calm attentiveness that had characterized every other month, with the same quiet efficiency, with an occasional dry comment at the end of a long patient that made Leila laughed in a way that helped more than she wanted to admit. Two things happened in December. The first was a patient, a woman named Denise, mid-40s, who came in for a crown delivery and who, while Leila was checking the fit, said to Maya, apparently assuming that Leila's focus on the tooth precluded her from hearing, "You two have such a sweet dynamic. How long have you been together?" Maya said, smoothly and professionally, "We're colleagues. Dr. Sharif is my employer." "Oh," Denise said, which sounded like genuine surprise. "You just seem, I don't know." "Never mind." Leila finished checking the crown. She did not say anything. Maya did not say anything, but when their eyes met across Denise, in the way they always did during a patient, there was something different in it. Something that acknowledged that both of them had heard. The second thing was the staff holiday party, which was just the three of them again, plus Darius's new girlfriend, who was a kindergarten teacher named Rhonda with a remarkable laugh, plus a bottle of wine in Leila's apartment, because Darius had suggested it and Leila hadn't found a good reason to say no. It was a Friday evening in the second week of December, and Leila had cleaned her apartment with more thoroughness than the occasion strictly required. She had lit the small candles on the bookshelf and bought the kind of appetizers that required actual presentation rather than just opening a bag. Darius and Rhonda arrived with another bottle of wine and a box of cookies that Rhonda had made herself, and Darius spent the first 20 minutes of the evening giving Rhonda a tour of the apartment and pointing out things that Leila had not realized were particularly notable. Maya arrived 20 minutes late, with a small wrapped gift and an apology about parking that was entirely genuine. She was wearing a dark red dress. Nothing elaborate. Just a dress, a color. And the person inside it, Leila said hello and took her coat and told her where the wine was and was extremely normal about all of it. Dinner was easy and warm. Rhonda was wonderful, the kind of person who made everyone feel included in every conversation. And Darius was at his most entertaining, and the wine was good. And the candles made the kind of light that made everyone look slightly luminous. After dinner, Darius and Rhonda moved to the couch to look at something on Rhonda's phone. Pictures from a class project, apparently involving a large papier-mâché globe, and Leila and Maya found themselves in the kitchen, doing the loose organizational task of covering leftovers, which did not require two people but which neither of them abandoned. "This is a beautiful apartment," Maya said. "Thank you. The walls are also sage green, you may notice, a theme." Maya smiled. She was wrapping something in foil, not looking at Leila. Then she said more quietly, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes," Leila said, and something in her was very still. Maya looked up. "The patient the other day, Denise." Leila waited. "She asked if we were together." Maya was watching her with an expression that was careful and also, underneath the care, nakedly honest. "And I said we were colleagues." "Because we are." A beat. "But I've been thinking about it since, and I think I owe you honesty. Because I think you've been honest with me in all the ways that matter. And I don't want to be less honest back." The kitchen was very quiet. "Maya," Leila said, and her voice came out carefully. "I think I have feelings for you," Maya said, directly, as though she had decided that the direct way was the only way worth doing this. "I have been trying not to for 4 months. Because you're my employer and because I value this job and because it seemed like not a thing to do. But I think you should know." Leila put down the container she was holding. She thought about the 4 months. The coffee. The amber lamp light. The October evening. The cranberry sauce. She thought about Priya saying middle places have a cost. "Maya," she said, "I have been trying not to for 4 months also." The words landed in the kitchen and changed the temperature again, only now it was more than 2 degrees. Maya exhaled. Something in her shoulders released. "Okay," she said. "Okay," Leila agreed. They stood in the kitchen looking at each other. And from the other room came the sound of Darius saying something about the papier-mâché globe that made Rhonda's wonderful laugh happen. "We need to think about this," Leila said. "I know." Maya nodded. "You're my employer. That's the complicated part." "Yes." Maya held her gaze. "But it's the only complicated part." January in a dental practice was always slow. The year-end rush was over, the patients were recovering from holiday spending. The days were short and cold and gray. Leila used the slowness to think. She thought carefully. The way she approached clinical problems, not rushing, not avoiding, looking at the angles. She consulted with an employment attorney friend. Not about Maya specifically, but hypothetically. About workplace relationship protocols, and came away with a clear picture of what responsible documentation would look like. What conversations would need to happen and be recorded. What safeguards would protect both of them. She talked to Priya again. At length, the question, Priya said, isn't whether it's complicated. Everything is complicated. The question is whether it's worth it. Leila already knew the answer to that. She had known it for 4 months. She asked Maya to stay after work one Thursday in the 3rd week of January. The clinic was empty, the amber lamps doing their usual work. The street outside dark at 5:30. She had made tea. Because the situation seemed to warrant tea, Maya sat across from her in the small office with the tea and looked at her with that open, clear gaze. I've been thinking, Leila said. So have I, Maya said, about what you said in the kitchen. Yes. Leila looked at her tea for a moment. I want to be honest with you about what I feel and also honest with you about the complexity of the situation, because I think you deserve both things. I appreciate that. What I feel? She stopped. Started again. I've been feeling it since the first day. Maybe since the first hour. And I've been trying genuinely to put it aside and be a good employer, which I think I have been. You've been a wonderful employer, Maya said. I want to keep being that. Whatever happens, Maya agreed. If this were to become something, Leila paused, gathering. There would need to be documentation. A disclosed relationship policy. The kind of clear professional framework that protects both of us, but especially protects you, because you're in the position with less structural power. Maya was quiet for a moment. You've looked into this. I talked to an attorney. Hypothetically, Leila met her eyes. I wanted to do this right if I did it at all. Something shifted in Maya's expression, not surprise. Exactly, but something that moved through her. A recognition. Leila, she said. Yes. I have also been thinking, for the last 3 weeks, about what this would look like done right. She reached across the desk. Not touching, just bridging the space. I have been thinking that if you're the kind of person who approaches even the beginning of something with that kind of care, she paused. Then you're the kind of person I was already right about. They did it right. They filed the relationship disclosure with the employment documentation Leila had prepared, signed by both, dated. They had a conversation on the record about how professional concerns would be handled and by whom. Darius, who was the only other employee, was informed with the straightforward, simple fact of it. Maya and I are beginning a relationship. We want you to know. Please tell us if you ever feel this affects the work environment, and Darius said finally, with enormous feeling, and then went back to his charts. They went on their first date in the last week of January. On a Saturday, which meant no professional context. Which meant Leila could pick Maya up in her car and drive to a restaurant she'd made a reservation at 3 days in advance, because she was that kind of person. And feel the particular nervousness of a first date that was also, in some ways, a 4th month of getting to know someone. The restaurant was good. The conversation was better. It turned out that removed from the context of the clinic, from the daily rhythms and the professional vocabulary, they were still entirely themselves. That the frequency between them existed outside the operatory. Outside the shared purpose of the work, Maya talked about Atlanta, about her grandmother's cooking, about the degree in literature she'd started before pivoting to dental assisting, about the novel she loved, about the specific grief of finishing a long book. And Leila listened with the feeling of someone who could listen to this person for a very long time. Leila talked about Columbus, about the circuitous route to dentistry, about the clinic and what it meant to her, about her fear of the first year failing and her slow growing belief that it wasn't going to, about the sage green walls. The walls were the first thing I noticed, Maya said. Before I even saw you, and then you saw me, Leila said. And then I saw you, Maya agreed, and smiled, and the 2-degree shift happened. And this time Leila didn't try to label it as anything but what it was. Spring came slowly to the city that year, with false starts and relapses into cold, which was fun because Leila had always liked weather that couldn't decide what it was doing. The practice grew. New patients, then more new patients, a waiting list by April for new patient exams. Leila hired a part-time front desk coordinator named B, who was 62 and ferociously organized and had zero tolerance for insurance companies, which made her extremely good at her job. The work between Leila and Maya did not change in the essential ways. They were still precise together, still fluent in the language of the operatory, still calibrated to each other in the way that had been true from the beginning. If anything, it deepened. Because now there was no energy spent on the careful not noticing, on the deliberate containment of something that wanted to be what it was. The frequency was allowed to be itself. Patients still noticed, though now the noticing was more accurate. You two work so well together? They did outside the clinic. Things grew at the pace of things that are being built carefully. There were more dinners, walks. The domestic pleasures of cooking in each other's kitchens. Leila's was better equipped, Maya's had more light. There were evenings on the phone that went longer than planned, texts that started as practical and became not. There was the first time Maya stayed over in March, in a moment that was quiet and significant and entirely without drama, just the ordinary magic of not having to leave. There was meeting friends. Priya, who flew in for a weekend in April and spent the whole dinner watching. Maya, with the careful attention of a good friend performing their due diligence. And who told Leila afterward, "She's exactly what you described and also nothing like I imagined, and also obviously completely right for you." So that's settled. There was the Sunday in May when Maya's mother called while they were having coffee on Leila's small balcony. And Maya answered and said, "I'm at Leila's," and then, "Yes, the dentist," and then, with a smile sideways at Leila, "Yes, Mom. She's sitting right here." There were harder moments too. Because there are always harder moments. There was the weekend. June, when the clinic had a billing crisis and Leila was overwhelmed and short-tempered. And Maya bore the brunt of it professionally in a way that was unfair. And they had their first real argument, not loud. Neither of them were loud, but honest and uncomfortable. And necessary. "You snapped at me in front of a patient today," Maya said that evening, in the flat, careful tone of someone who has decided to say the true thing. Leila had. She'd known it when she did it and known it worse in the hours since. "I know, I'm sorry." "That's not acceptable." "It's not," Maya agreed. "And I know you're under enormous pressure, but I need you to understand that being under pressure doesn't change that." "I understand." "I do." Leila looked at her. "I'm not going to make excuses." "It was wrong." "I'll do better." Maya nodded. A pause that took up the space of deciding whether the conversation was over or had more to say. "I also know," she said then, more gently, "that you're carrying a lot right now. And that's also real. I can hold both things." Leila felt, not for the first time, the specific quality of being known by this person. "Thank you," she said. "That's not a thank you thing," Maya said. "That's just what this is." They repaired it. They were better at repairing than they would have expected. Which was the discovery of working through a first fight, not that it didn't happen, but that the capacity to move through it was already there. A year after Maya's first day, Leila arrived at the clinic early, as she always did, and found Maya already there. As she always was, but Maya had done something to the reception area that took Leila a moment to parse. On the front desk, there was coffee, 1 sugar, the right amount of oat milk, and next to it, a small succulent in a pot with a card. The card read, in Maya's handwriting, 1 year. "The walls are still the right color." Leila stood in the doorway, holding her bag, and felt the kind of fullness that doesn't fit in words, but that she tried to find words for anyway. Because she believed in the effort even when language ran short. Maya came around the corner from operatory 2. She was already in her scrubs, already organized, already herself. "You're ridiculous," Leila said. "I prefer thorough," Maya said. Leila crossed the reception area and kissed her. Once, in the sage-green morning, and Maya's arms came around her in the easy way of a year of practice. And outside the window, the city was doing its morning thing, moving and waking. And the clinic was quiet around then in the way of something that had been built right. The succulent still sits on the front desk. It has survived 2 years, which is longer than Leila expected because she is better at dental work than plant care. Maya has been the one actually keeping it alive, which Leila found out and which Maya denied with elaborate innocence. Doris eventually switched to daytime. Hours to spend more time with Rhonda. He still has opinions about flossing pics. He brought in a plant of his own to compete with the succulent, which has not done as well. B runs the front of the practice with the efficiency of a general and a Keikul and a Kaikind as well. B runs the front of the practice with the efficiency of a general and the practice with the efficiency of a general and the warmth of someone who genuinely loves patients, which turns out to be a powerful combination. The clinic has 2 more operatories now. The walls are still sage green on some mornings. Before the first patient, when the practice is quiet and amberlit and the coffee is still hot, Leila will look across the room and find Maya already looking back, with that particular expression, warm, knowing, there, and will think about the first day, about the doorbell chiming, about a woman in dark scrubs standing in her reception area looking at her walls. Oh, Maya had said. The color in here is really good. Yes, Leila thinks now every time. Yes, it is.